it has emerged that vehicles meant for the presidential press corps under the John Mahama administration were not given to them. This is contained in a copy of the Professor Kwesi Botchwey Committee report intercepted by Joy News. The report says only 4 out of the 34 members of the presidential press corps were given vehicles from a pool of about 200 vehicles available for distribution to the press corps and others. Joy News' Evans Mensah has the report in his hands, and he's joined me in the studio with more. Evans,
yeah,
thanks so much. We did a short recap of what we know so far regarding the communications and the media relations, and we've prepared that. Let's go through that with viewers, then we go to the new thing we have. So as you can see here, it says there was a disconnect between the media party, government, and government communication machinery. Party spokespersons will go and mess up at any stations and come to do damage control on Radio Gold. Evans, you were hosting most of these people in the run-up to the election. I'm sure you would attest to that.
And you see the NDC disrespected its own media, and that's a very interesting bit of it. NDC is intolerant of the media. Again, NDC sponsored pro-MPP media who painted themselves as neutral. NDC had no patience to build neutral stations, and that's an interesting one. You think that NDC stations that we've seen in the past will propagate essentially NDC ideology, but they wanted the stations that are neutral. If you're neutral, the likelihood that listeners could accept what you say is very, very high. But also, in addition, there are things that we haven't published yet, but today we're going to roll out in the second series. For example, it talks about in essence, the fact that for the first time I'm seeing this, Kofi Adams and Kofi Portofi, the national organizer and national chairman, benefited from presidential machinations in the Kumasi Congress to elect them, and people knew that, and therefore that became an issue for people who didn't like the way the elections turned out. Also, it is
so the presidents manipulated on their behalf.
On their behalf. Now, party hierarchy became sycophantic in its relationship with the government. It's another thing that was captured. Again, they stated, and these are based on views they collected from some of the key, what they call among the last segment of pro-NDC press. And they indicated that it will be a surprise if President John Mahama decides to continue to keep Standogbe, Dr. Manibama, Joyce Muktari, Bawa Muktari, and still have hope of winning elections. What has happened after the elections is that John Dramani Mahama has kept all these.
Exactly, because Joyce Bawa Muktari runs
for them.
He speaks for
Standogbe still travels with him.
Exactly.
So he's not parting company at all with these individuals. Also, he says they won about Laura constituency, and Chief of Staff dismissed it. Laura, they lost.
Yeah,
they
that's
lost
Anthony
Abaye-Fakabo. For the first time in a long time, MPP won that seat. And the committee report is saying the NDC was warned about this, but it was dismissed by the Chief of Staff. Again, it claims that after the party congress in Kumasi, where they alleged that Kofi Portofi and Kofi Adams were won because of machination from the presidency, the party hierarchy collapsed, they claim, after the congress, and that accusations of diversion of campaign funds must be probed, they're asking. Eastern Regional Chairman is alleged to have been keeping some 1 million cedis meant for campaign funding. Now, the interesting thing about, according to the report, the interesting thing, I remember Solomon Kansa at the point was a very important communications person. It noted that him as a communications director was a disaster for the party. Standogbe, again, they allege, literally banned publications on the Second Lady. And again, you understand why, because there was a time when each time you've seen a publication by the First Lady, people had used that to ridicule President John Dramani Mahama in essence. And so let's control that. But there were aspects of this that for me going forward today is going to be interesting. A few things. What happened on election day? We've heard a lot about how the NDC's election collation machinery collapsed. We're going to learn a few things about that today in the report, because it details everything that happened on election day. From transportation, you need to mobilizing people. It broke down. Logistics broke down. Feeding, monies that were meant for agents, etc., were not going down to the polling stations. Therefore, polling agents were not as vigilant as they should be. Monitoring, again broke down. But for me, key amongst that is election results collation, which was a fundamental reason why they lost elections. Because if you don't keep your eye on the ball, NPP knew they won elections way before.
In fact, that night, it looked like, at least,
they simply dropped the ball. The committee report this today will tell us in essence how that happened.
And I can't wait to see all those details. Particularly, you've hit the nail right on the head, because when it comes to collation of results, remember that it was in the wee hours of the morning. The election was Wednesday, so on Thursday morning, where the first statements came out that they know they've won. A few hours later, there was another press conference from the youth wing. And then later in the day, Joe Anoche was revealed. Where he walked journalists through the coalition infrastructure the NPP had laid down. So it will be interesting to see what the NDC also had on the ground. Evan Spencer, thank you very much for joining us and doing it so succinctly. Of course, we'll be getting all those details beginning with midday on Joy News today, and other bulletins will also be carrying that. But you want to stay tuned to Joy News for all the details on the Kwesi Botchwey Committee reports. That's all we have time for.